Hello, and welcome to American Heron Wargaming. This is a battle report for Fallout Wasteland Warfare. This is actually a special battle report because it covers my second game in the Battle for Nuka-World Campaign that I'm running through with 5 other players at my local game shop. Out of our group, I played in the last game of Battle Round 1, but now for Battle Round 2, I ended up playing the first game of the round. So I won't be able to give the full round results at the end of this report like last time. But don't worry, those results will come eventually. For today's battle, my opponent and I were both trying to gain control over the Nuka Galaxy node. This is important for me because if I capture it, then my gang, the operators, will own 3 nodes in that region, which gives us control for the purposes of winning the campaign. We decided that we would try out using the full battle mode rules for Wasteland Warfare. It's a bit more stripped down and less random in order to provide a more balanced competitive environment. We rolled for the scenario and picked the one called Scrapyard. The 3 red searchable markers in the middle of the board represent junk piles. A model in base contact with them can perform a search test, and if successful, they gain 1 victory point. This can be repeated, as the tokens don't go away. However, if anyone rolls a crit fail on their search check, that particular pile is unusable for the remainder of the turn. The blue investigation markers are each side's respective objectives. Each team has 5, and each of them has a specific skill check assigned to them secretly by the owner. Once revealed, if that test is passed, the player gains 1 victory point, and the marker is removed. You can only perform tests on your own markers, not the opponent's. We also follow the rules for setting up terrain, with each of the 14 pieces being yellow distance from each other. As we're still in round 1 of the campaign, each of our forces is 350 caps. My opponent brought the Sole Survivor with a laser pistol and the Comfort Grip mod, Arcade Gannon with a Wasteland outfit, Plasma Defender with a boosted capacitor mod, and a Ripper. Cass has a Wasteland outfit as well, plus a Caravan shotgun and a bottle of whiskey. Rounding out the team is a single settler with an assault rifle. On my side of the table, I have the A2018 Elite Synth with a Tesla cannon, Institute laser pistol, and Ripper. Then I've got a Trooper Synth with an Institute laser rifle, and 2 Gen 1 Synths just with Institute laser pistols. None of the Synths need armor because their armor is still baked into the card just like it was before Wave 9. Then finally, we have an Engineer with their clean room suit, but underneath that they are wearing an Institute lab coat for some better checks. And they have an Institute laser pistol as well, just in case. We got set up with all models hiding in relative safety, and then with that, we got underway. With fewer models, the survivors got the advantage for turn 1. Cass started out by revealing one of their objective markers, but failed the required check. So did my Gen 1 Synth. All in all, turn 1 was mostly just moving up and getting into position for the next turn, though the Sole Survivor was able to score one of their objectives. A2018 took advantage of him being out in the open like that, letting loose a long bomb shot with the Tesla cannon, but missing. We also marked all of my objective tokens with the ellipsis tokens, because we had started to forget which ones belonged to whom. We kicked off turn 2 with the Mist Sprayers event, which was going to give everyone a rad damage. Fortunately for the survivors, most of them had a strong armor token which could handle that. My synths and the engineer in the cleanroom suit didn't worry about it either. Unfortunately though, we realized out of the game that this was a mistake. In battle mode, you aren't supposed to use events at all. It does make sense, since some of them can have some pretty profound effects on the round. But we didn't remember that at the time, so this is how we played it. After Cass slugged some whiskey and picked up her objective, A2018 tried taking another long shot with the Tesla cannon at the Sole Survivor, but missed again, and failed its quick reload check. So it used its other action to try to get closer to the objectives in the middle of the board. However, Arcade showed up and drilled 3 damage into A2018 with the Plasma Defender. That thing smarts. It took 2 tries, but the engineer was able to pick up our first objective that had been hiding in the corner there. Then the settler stepped up and was just barely in range to hit a long shot into A2018 for another point of damage. My Gen 1 Synth on the east side of the board made it to the junk pile to search, but with a search score of 4, didn't find anything worth keeping. My Gen 1 Synth on the other side of the board did at least pick up their objective, so at the end of turn 2, my opponent and I were both tied with 2 victory points. The Trooper had taken a pair of shots at Arcade, but missed them both, unluckily. In turn 3, our event was a happy clue. The Sole Survivor won the roll-off and gained a luck token for it. Then, getting the jump in, Arcade used the Plasma Defender to finish off A2018 with a pair of Plasma Blasts. The Trooper Synth took revenge for its fallen comrade by dropping the settler before she could activate. On the other side of the board, my engineer made it to our next objective marker and revealed another search check. Turn 3 drew to a close with Cass moving up towards the center, but hiding behind the park map. The Sole Survivor fired at the Gen 1 Synth on the junk pile, netting 3 damage across both shots. The other Gen 1 Synth moved up and tried to hit Arcade, but the man seems to be incredibly fortunate in dodging laser bolts. Our event for turn 4 just gives junk items for the next searched searchable, Since we don't use caps in this campaign, it wasn't worth worrying about. Arcade started the turn by farming a victory point from the junk pile and then getting out of the line of fire, not wanting to face the hail of lasers anymore. My Gen 1 synth tried to do the same, succeeding the first time, but crit failing the second time, meaning that this pile would be unusable for the rest of the turn. And then it got shot to ribbons by the sole survivor. My engineer just needed to roll a 6 to pass the search check to gain this victory point, but rolled a pair of 8s, not particularly helpful. Cass moved up and failed to pick up another victory point, but for her effort was blasted apart by the Institute gun line, and that brought turn 4 to a close. My opponent and I were tied with 3 victory points and 2 turns to go, but I still had 1 model more than they did, so the survivors got to go first. The event for turn 5 brought a penalty for shooting for any non-robots. The sole survivor didn't have to worry about that though. Moving up to the next objective marker, he zapped 2 damage onto my engineer. Working through the pain though, the engineer finally scored the objective they'd been sitting on. Then Arcade popped his head out of his hiding spot and obliterated my Gen 1 synth, rolling 5 total damage for the hit. I decided to eschew shooting for this turn with the trooper and move it up to the objectives. At the end of turn 5, I'm up 4 to 3 points, but the sole survivor is likely to get theirs, and Arcade is in a position to score one as well. So if I don't have 2 models ready to score points, I could quickly fall behind in that race. Our event for the final turn changes blank faces of a yellow die to a -1 effect, which is interesting, but unlikely to be a factor since both of our goals are likely just going to be scoring. I finally got the advantage, finally having tied my opponent on model count. Of course, my engineer blew it by rolling another 8 on their search check, failing to take us to a 2 victory point lead. The sole survivor then easily cleared theirs, bringing us dead even to a 4-4 tie. My trooper could have retaken the lead with a search check, but another rolled 8 and then a crit fail dashed those hopes. Finally, it was all down to Arcade. He moved over to his team's objective marker and rolled his skill check and rolled a 10. A failure. So in the end, we wrapped up with a tied 4-4 score. However, the campaign needs someone to win and someone to lose, so we agreed to simply hinge the whole thing on a single luck die roll. Since the sole survivor still had his luck token, my opponent called the lucky side and it came up unlucky. So by the narrowest margin, the Institute comes away with a win and control of Nuka Galaxy. It was fun trying out one of the official battle mode scenarios. I think we'll probably be sticking with them for the campaign. Though I do think it's fun to have the events in there, as it gives a more Nuka-World flair to the matches. We'll see if the rest of the participants agree. That's it for now. Stay safe out there in the wasteland.